When I search MRR in coaching, it's almost non-existent, mate. That's where the whole MRR thing was born. It was born through my own experience of almost leaving the industry. One month you're really rich and the next month you're poor. I hear a lot of people say that, oh, you know, you're a coach first and a business owner second, and I don't think that could be any further from the truth. Everybody says that, Cal. They're like, I want to impact loads of lives. It's like, well, you can't impact them if you don't have a business. You have to be a good coach that communicates well. You have to understand that you're an actual business owner. See, if you focus on that, then you're going to impact more lives. I went to London, big London, first time I'd ever been. I got the train down, I had my little laptop, and I just went, wow, I feel like I'm back wearing my oversized Pure Gym uniform again. And then I bought the course, came back, I was like, right, there is a lot of work to do here. Something good happens if you just keep pushing to be curious. I actually saw a quote from Alice in Wonderland today. It was the quote about finding the right people and then you'll find Wonderland. So surround yourself with the right people and then you'll find Wonderland. Listen, mate, I'm still figuring it out.
MRR? Why? Why MRR?
Oh, you got to spare 4 hours. Why, mate? I think just what comes to mind straight away is, and I guess the why always gets refined, doesn't it, over time? But for the initial reason for the MRR was, truth be told, mate, I've always been inspired by building a business that's unique, or at the very least has got something different to it. And in Scotland, we call it something about you, right? Something different about it. So I think when I built the Glasgow PT, that was my aim with that as well. It was like, right, okay, let's rebrand, let's call it something that can turn some heads. I never knew at the time, but looking back with hindsight, is like I actually wanted to just create something that gave me that edge, gave me that buzz, and gave me a standard to aim towards, because I literally called my business the Glasgow PT. You know, it was like, and some people view that as like, who does he think he is, calling himself the Glasgow PT? But then looking back at it now, it's the same as MRR. The whole MRR agency thing was, I just get one of my biggest passions is marketing and the psychology of marketing, what that does for businesses, what it does to make people move in a direction that eventually changes their life. So MRR was, I basically, the way it came about is I was kind of stuck with the upgraded coach. I was kind of like, right, we're going well, you know, well, looking at the space here, there's guys in the space 10 years before me that I had been mentored up by from in the past. I was like, how do I fast track this learning curve? How do I get ahead? Because I can't reverse time. I can't get the same experience as these guys, you know. And so I basically just went, okay, let me just go back to why. And I mean, I think it's the whole avatar thing. It's like I tell coaches to do this all the time and they get frustrated, but I've bought a lot of courses and a lot of mentor business coaches in the last 10 years. And it always starts with avatar, right? Because it should. And I went back, readdressed it, and I was like, right, what do these coaches actually want? Because I think I built the upgraded coach based on what I struggled with, or what I thought I struggled with. So then you only can build what you know. Then over time, you coach 30, 40, 50 people, and you start to realize, right, okay, it's not just that particular problem, because that was my path. It's also this problem, that problem. What do you mean someone doesn't want to post content? I found that easy. I thought that was fine. Right. So confidence is an issue with content. You know, I was terrible at tracking my income. That's probably why my income fluctuated. Someone's really good at that. All right. I thought everybody was crap at it like me. So I started to learn over time, and then we did well. First 2 years, we, started doing pretty well. The business was growing, but then, like I say, I wanted to push further. I wanted to fast track the growth of the company. So I went back to the avatar, I did market research for the first time, which is embarrassing because it's something obviously anybody listening, I'd advise you to do it as soon as possible. We ran some market research. I'm a personal trainer at heart, right? And we've all got a bit of an ego. And whenever I spoke to personal trainers, like in business audits, for example, they knew that their names tied to it. So they knew that someone was viewing it, and not all of them open up straight away. So I always felt with the audits and the trackers that was completed, it was very kind of surface level comments they were saying. It was very much like they almost said what you wanted to hear. And personal trainers listening to this will know that when they get a client check-in, they kind of just say what you want to hear sometimes, don't they? You never get the true reason unless you're great at communication and great at coaching, which I'm sure you'll get to that stage if you're not already. So I had all the information from clients because I've been coaching them. I like to categorize clients as aware. because they listen to your processes. They've been onboarded, so they're aware people in marketing. I wanted to listen to the unaware people, because when a business is stalling and you're maybe struggling to get calls booked, you need to speak the language of the unaware, right? So I did market research and I made it anonymous. I gave away £500 to and randomised it. The reason that I was able to find the person is I left a keyword at the end of the questionnaire. So I asked them 50 questions, very hefty market research. And then from that, I sat. Thankfully, it was just when ChatGPT came out at the time, so I was able to get to the answers quicker and start to digest it quicker. And I just sat with the answers and I was like, right, what am I missing here? And before I got the answers, I was very much, okay, what we're all about. We're all about anti-stripe screenshots. We're all about, fluctuating income. We're all about ego, and we're all about, not asking for help, and like all about that, all that sort of stuff. So then when I read it, I was like, right, all people actually want is stability here, because they've let their guard down. The answers are anonymous, and it's never going to be tied back to them. So what I got was incredibly refreshing answers from people that I had never seen, answers like it before. And I was like, wow, okay. And I sat with it for a bit, and I'm like, right, people just want stability and safety. And I went, that's a bit like you're being a fat loss coach and trying to sell consistency or sustainability. It's not very sexy, right? So I was like, okay, we're going to have to make this sexy to make it marketable. So that's when I sat on it for a bit. And I started to really observe new clients who were coming into our business. And it really drilled home how true the market research was, because I was young, I was new to the space. We were obviously cheaper than the bigger guys in the space, but we were more relatable. We were friendlier. We were more accessible. And, I started taking on people who just saw my business and saw my journey from personal trainer to gym owner to online coach to now being a mentor at the time. I got people signing up and they came to us, right? And I always remember taking a few people on, especially in Scotland and a few in the north of England. And I thought, wow, okay. When you get those clients, you're kind of like the higher status clients, quote unquote. And I thought, great, man, I finally got a client with a good brand and a good name and stuff. And when they came on board, what I found was horrifying. And they had set their business up to run it on a very, very sales dominant way. So 60%, 70% of the business was reliant on sales. The rest was, a really broken business model with no emphasis on client care, client communication, getting clients results, making sure clients get their clients results and what they're offering people. They were coming in and they were just able to sell to people. And selling, don't get me wrong, is an amazing skill to have, of course, but they had it the wrong way around. So we had coaches who hit 10K months, but the following month would be 4K, 3K. So they were selling 1 to 2K packages. And if they never sold, it was like feast or famine. And I thought, we need to do something about this. We need to make this marketable. We need to make it sexy. And most importantly, we need to fix it. So that's where the whole MRR thing was born. It was born through my own experience of almost leaving the industry, because I was like, is this just what happens? Like 1 month you're really rich and the next month you're poor. Is this what happens? I think it is, because that's the way that block payments work, and that's the way that some clients cancel last minute. Maybe it is just how it works as a business. So it was built from that early on to then go, right, okay, wait a minute here. I wasn't the only one experiencing this. And then just categorically asking my market outright anonymously for them to give me the answers. And that was where MRR and the push started to come from it.
I just want to kind of briefly kind of take you back to you spoke about the Glasgow PT. To call yourself the Glasgow PT, it's got to take some confidence.
Yep.
Where's that come from?
I actually called myself the Glasgow PT because I remember it. I had my client as my longest term client, and I was sitting with him. I was like, we need to change the name. The name was Chris Bradley Fitness at the time. And I was like, we need to change it. We need to get something that stands out. And I was brainstorming back and forward with him, and he said, what about Glasgow PT? And I was like, the Glasgow PT, what do you mean? And it was kind of half, well, you're the busiest person here. Maybe you're just, and we were in the biggest gym in Glasgow. And it was like, maybe you just go with that. And to be honest, at first I wasn't really thinking I'm the Glasgow PT. It was more, I like the idea that it identifies with a location that I can potentially dominate. So it was like the Glasgow PT. So immediately I was like search engine optimization. I was like, oh, this is going to come up without me paying. Ideal.
Mm.
And mate, I was very confident at the time, very confident, highly driven by ego. I'd came from a place where I was, I remember wearing the personal trainer, uniform, and I was like 69 kg, and it drowned me, and there was no smaller sizes, and I took a class of 30 people with no confidence, despite the fact I was in retail before that.
Mm.
And then looking at people in the staff room and going like, wow, like how are they so big? How are they muscly? How are they so confident? To Don't get me wrong, mate, I was confident in my life out with that. But
Yeah.
I was a small fish in a big pond all of a sudden, and I didn't know how to coach people. There was no much help back then. I went from that to, okay, now I've got a voice. Okay, now my classes are busy. Okay, now people want to sign up after my class. Okay, now I'm probably the busiest PT here. And I went, oh, and then the belief just caught up and just filled to the brim. And I was just like, right, okay, I definitely feel like I am the Glasgow PT because I'm the busiest here. I've got the most transformations on Instagram. That was the value at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, man, I think I think it's true. And it was very much just peak confidence of coming from a place where I'd built it up. And mate, in all honesty, the breadcrumbs were success were there. They were there. So it was justified. It was just a lot of the things I did back then were based on impressing people, probably.
Mhm.
So that was probably why it was born. It was less born about that than it was clever in any degree.
When do you reckon you kind of made that shift?
The next phase, mate. So when I made myself a small fish again, I remember I went down to a mastermind in London, out with going to Portugal and a few holidays. It was the first time I'd actually went to somewhere else in the UK.
Mm.
I think I'd went to, can't remember the name of that place, Flamingo Land. I'd went to Flamingo Land. So when you leave Scotland, like in the UK, it's kind of like, oh, where are we going? Are we going to England? And I went to London, big London. First time I'd ever been. I got the train down. I had my little laptop, and I got invited to the mastermind that day. I went down and I just went, wow, I feel like I'm back wearing my oversized Pure Gym uniform again. These
Mm.
guys were confident. They were business owners. They were experienced. The guy who was on the stage delivering was talking about things that just went over my head. But some of it I was like, oh, wow, I know, how could I never think of that? And then I bought the course, came back, and I was like, right, there is a lot of work to do here. So see the 10, 15 PTs that you're looking at your Pure Gym? Yeah, that's not the standard. That's just Glasgow you're talking about, mate. That is not the standard. And so I put myself in another room and realised that I'm a small fish. So that's when the ego was like, yeah, there's no room for that here.
But your average person could very easily have turned to a puddle with an inferiority complex there. And I think the one thing that's really kind of clear to me anyway is that whenever you're searching for an answer, and it's a great principle that I've has really helped me in terms of like who, not how. Like when you were looking for an answer in terms of the MRR side of things, you immediately went to like market research. And then again, like in terms of your answer to almost like in terms of the next sort of stage of your business, you went, right, okay, I need to go to this individual because the answer is going to be over there. That like that
Mm-hmm.
resourcefulness, like I feel it's something that isn't really kind of around as much in the fitness industry at the moment. In terms of, yeah, you have people who sign up for masterminds, you have some people who sign up for mentorships, etc. But I know the one thing that I definitely really connect with you on is that you're very curious to find out the answer, but not necessarily just for the specific outcome, but also for the new skills that you require. And how have you kind of crafted that sort of mindset? Because I think one of the frustrations I have, and I'm sure you probably share a similar sort of frustration in terms of the coaching industry at the moment, is the sole almost kind of like drive for the outcome, as opposed to almost kind of coming into. So let's say, for example, I wanted to come into your program and work with you. Like I don't just see that as an opportunity to, it's going to change my MRR. I see it as I'm going to learn how MRR actually works. I'm going to learn how to actually be able to do that and acquire that skill set. So where does that come from?
I mean, I think it comes from initially doing it and then getting the outcome from it. So, for example, like I use this quite a lot, but like when I was in Sainsbury's working, I used to sit back and they would give us feedback on who was the fastest at scanning items, because the faster the items get scanned, the more customers you get through the till, the more money they make. There's less
Mm,
queues. And this was back when supermarkets were huge, mate, on any queues happening. It was like what they get scored on, right? It's queues were the big thing.
mm,
Um, and I remember seeing someone score. They told us the score on this woman had like 28 items per minute. And I was like, how the hell is she scanning 28 items per minute? I'm at like 17. And I'm like, I can't just throw this, throw the items at the customer. Then I found out what she did, mate. So I got curious. I was like, how is she doing that? And I used to watch her, right? And she used to like, so say you were a customer and you're trying to pack your bag and it's starting to overflow like they do with you at Lidl, right? But they don't
mm,
care. She would press the enter button. So what she'd figured out is that when you press enter, it stops the clock. So then the timer's not going anymore.
clever.
So she had great customer service, high items per minute, and I saw her do it, but she never shared the information with people. So the curiosity came from that. And then I think it's also made just want to be useful. I think the resourcefulness comes from just wanting to be useful for people.
Mm,
It came from when I was a PT and I just over delivered and probably tried to deal with stuff that I wasn't qualified to deal with because I just wanted
mm,
to be useful. So in order to be
mm,
useful, you have to be resourceful. So from that all the way through to like, when I went down to that course, I went, wow, that's like, I want to know how they do that. So then I built an education hub and it was like, no one has that up here. And it was like, right. So let me tell you this, every time I'm curious and I go and seek the answers, market research, I get the MRR thing, something good happens if you just keep
mm,
pushing to be curious. And that was it. So every time I've done it, it's came with its reward. It sometimes feels tough. It sometimes feels like you're giving yourself more work. But guess what? That's what yields the result. So, mate, it's so funny you say that. The word curiosity is just such
mm,
an important trait in business, man, because it removes as well, Cal. It removes the stigma between I need to know, I need to know the next thing. It's like, no, you don't.
mm,
Curiosity will bring the answers because the answer just doesn't lie. There is no answer. The answer is what you feel you translate it as.
mm. It's interesting you say it because I'm a big storybook reader. Like whether it's comics, whether it's old books, whether it's films. And have you watched Alice in Wonderland before?
Yeah.
Have you read the book?
No, I actually saw a quote from Alice in Wonderland today.
What was it?
It was the quote about like finding the right people and then you'll find Wonderland. So surround yourself with the right people and
Mm.
then you'll find Wonderland.
Tell you what, give that book a read because I definitely recommend it. First of all, it's so clear he wrote it on psychedelics. Like it's
Is it?
yeah, because like it's nothing like the film. Like it just doesn't make sense. But there are some absolute gems in there that really kind of apply to entrepreneurship and also kind of like in terms of the MRR side of things, which I do really want to kind of get into. I think also one thing I found in terms of with my own business, in terms of the my customers staying in my world, my clients staying in my world. I think one of the big things that I've noticed has been that when I have had a poor recurring revenue, which fundamentally is a low level of clients buying into me, the message and the service that I'm delivering, it's been because my energy and my performance has gone down, not necessarily from a physical point of view but more from a sense of that. Like I remember I once had a client saying to me, it's like you just turn up as if you don't want to actually be here. Like, and when that is almost kind of like translating over to a one of your customers, like that's not really a great place to almost be, especially when you're in the service business and the people business. But I think the reason why that kind of happened was that I'd lost curiosity in terms of like the direction that this business was actually going. And it almost kind of like, I remember like when it came to fat loss, I talk a lot about, to a lot of coaches who I work with around, you got to be more than just a fat loss coach because like fat loss is finite. It's like
Mhm.
once someone's lost 2 stone, what you can do? Keep paying me 250 quid a month to stay where you're at. Like there has to be some form of progression and growth. And like we had a conversation back in Florida last year, and I remember one of the things that I really got from a guy who was speaking, Stu McLaren, around kind of like membership subscriptions and keeping in mind people want progression, they want to move forward. But also I think for yourself, like you have to have kind of progression in terms of like having curiosity still within this business. And the reason I bring Alice in Wonderland up was it's a really interesting kind of part of the book right at the start. It's right at the start, she's just sitting around in a meadow and she's looking around, and it's interesting around this, like you got something about you. She's looking around, she sees loads of rabbits, but then this one rabbit catches her eye because it's a rabbit wearing a fucking waistcoat looking at the time saying, I'm late, I'm late. So naturally, like, first of all, I kind of looked at that and go, well, every other rabbit just looked the same and was acting like a rabbit. But then when you have a rabbit standing there in a waistcoat talking, saying that it's late, that piques your curiosity. And then the rabbit goes down a hole, like goes down a hole. And because she was curious as to where the rabbit is actually going, she then goes and follows the rabbit down there. So for me, I kind of wrote that in my journal. I was like, right, okay, am I operating like a rabbit that's just sitting around doing what rabbits do? Or how can I be the rabbit wearing the waistcoat, looking at the time saying I'm late and late and late? Because I'm someone who is almost like worth being curious actually to follow down a rabbit hole. But then also in terms of your own self, it's like having that curiosity, it keeps it exciting for you. It keeps you on your journey in that sense.
Mate, I love it. Aye, it makes total sense. And I think that's, but it's so true. It's like, if you're, like your client mentioned to you that day, and like we've all got to, and this is what some coaches don't realise, and when I have one-to-one calls with coaches, they kind of go, Chris, this marketing thing's not working, my content's not landing. And I'm like to them, like, you seem uptight, like you don't see, your stories are a bit, you're salesy, you feel like people sense it, mate. They sense it, but they might not, say it out loud. They might not consciously say it. Subconsciously, they feel it from people, and that's why it's so hard when you're struggling with your business, is because the very thing that could actually get you out of the rut is just you being in your place of expertise and really thriving. And it's hard because it's like, how do I get out of that to get to be more attractive? Or I want to know where you're going.
It's a challenging question to kind of ask yourself consistently. But I think the one thing that does scream out to me in terms of, and why I really kind of like connect with you anyway, is the curiosity side of things. Like, you make me very curious, and like, especially in terms of like, the overall kind of message of MRR. It's not out there. It's not regular. But also there's an element of curiosity because, like you said there, in terms of what people are really looking for. I think one of the biggest challenges, with when you are kind of like starting a business, is the perceived uncertainty and that uncertainty of income. And you can find yourself very easily on that treadmill of I've got to keep making sales to keep the money in. So just from like an outsider's perspective, being able to kind of look at like the message you're putting out there, the branding and everything, that not necessarily the branding, but the clear messaging of MRR is very, very curious. And I think that is very kind of a very powerful way to do things. But like for other coaches, how can they almost kind of like, I'm going more from like a messaging perspective, we kind of use this almost like, rabbit in a waistcoat sort of metaphor. How can they almost kind of elicit that sort of curiosity?
Mate, it's a great question, because this is what we spend time building with our coaches, but it's not easy. I don't go on a call with a coach and come up with it for them. They, some of them, it just falls naturally to them. I get really, what I'm starting to realize is that coaches lack, like any human being, we lack moments of like inspiration. We lack motivation to do the thing we know we need to do. So what I've found is the most inspired coaches is they actually build something that's so unique to them. We saw a wave there of coaches using the same graphic designers and using the same business coaching programs. And what we ended up with was just this whole host of people who were just copycats of each other. And this isn't to put people down, because you've still invested in both things. You're still trying to do good. It's not to put you down. It's more to say that, look, I'm not sitting here, the most successful business coach in my space, but I wake up every day and you'll not, like, unless I'm drinking Guinness, you will not see me with this t-shirt on, because, man, I wake up every day. I've got the 3 letters tattooed on my leg. Like, I love it. I love the idea of it. I love the fact that I found an angle. I'm hardly creating, the next fucking Amazon here. Like, it's not, I'm not coming up with something that I invented. I come up with an actual angle. It's something that I feel passionate about helping coaches with. And so, like, I'm prepared to spend the next 10 years with this angle and really, really explore it, really learn more about it. And one of the, like, back to your point, Cal, the most curious part for this for me, which I love, is when I search MRR in coaching, it's almost non-existent, mate. It doesn't exist because it's typically viewed as a software thing. It's okay, you put a price up, people subscribe to it, and they pay you monthly. Now, when I look at the biggest struggles with fitness business owners, it's safety in their business, stability, predictability, like consistency, right? So we ask our coaches and have done for the full of 2024 and went, okay, end of month trackers, fill it in. Bear in mind, this is coaches getting our help. And we've got 10 pillars of MRR, sales, authenticity, systems, all this good stuff. And we asked them, what's your weakest pillar going into next month? And every single month of this year, sales was the answer.
Mm.
How can it be that every single one of our clients ticks sales? When does it end?
Is that
When
just
is sales?
is that not just a paradigm?
Of course it is, mate. Of course it is. So what I'm trying to do here with my
Mm.
clients and my messaging is trying to rewrite the rule book that, yes, we want to sell, but how can every single month sales be a problem? Like, when are we going to spend a month of the year just building something we love? So I guess a long-winded answer, mate, to help people build something is like really look at something you're passionate about, Carl. Is like look for the people that you want to take along this journey with you, right? You can get a bit cheesy or a bit more American with it and talk about your calling. Like
Yeah, but
what
it's
is
your
your calling?
movement. Mm.
Your movement. What's the movement you're building, right? And a perfect example of this, right? And you can't steal this because it's my client's business now. It's trademarked. It's going well. And her business is she helps females who are they're not particularly TikTok gym girls. They're not particularly your gym shark girls, right? She knows that. She's
Mm.
quirky. She's weird. They lift heavy. They like going to the gym. But the big statement that they always make from the research is they can't be asked,
Mm.
right? So her brand is now CBA, right? But our brand is CBA. Our tagline is doing it anyway,
Mm.
right? So she's installed this mantra that I can't be asked. It's like, but I'm doing it anyway. She's got a higher tier, which is CBA, doing it better,
Mm.
right? And the idea here is that she's found our people because these people use this language. You're speaking their language, right? So
Mm.
for me, for MRR, for example, see if I use the word safety, stability, the Dubai crew will be like, I don't want to be safe and stable, mate. I want to be taking over the world.
Yeah.
So my language is going to alienate people, but also bring people to me when they drop the ego.
Mm.
So my point is that if you're sitting there with a market that you love serving, listen to them, speak the language, and you'll find that little thing. You'll find the thing that you can double down on. By the way, you're not reinventing the wheel. You're selling fat loss. I'm selling business coaching. I'm not Bezos. You're not Zuckerberg. I'm not telling you to find the next Apple. I'm telling you to find what your people love and what they can go, whoa, I love that car. Get me in that car with you. We're off to the races, wherever we're going.
Mm.
That's it. Find that thing. But honestly, pretend you are creating the next thing because it will just lift the lid of what's possible for you.
I think the problem is that when you're trying to fit in the same box as everyone else, the excitement and the possibilities disappear because it's like this
Of
is how
course.
it is done and you do it like that. We've both been in the world of Russell Brunson for a while. Like he talks about who you've been called to serve. How many
Yep.
coaches actually kind of like are aware that that is even a thing? But then also in terms of the business mentoring space, how much is that actually that specific thing in terms of who you've been called to serve, who your movement is for and what it's about? You look at that like that CBA, just kind of looking at you while you're actually articulating that. I'm seeing that as like that is what obviously clearly kind of sets you on fire in terms of like for you it's getting that super deep into understanding specifically who you want to work with, getting super deep into their head, and their own story, and then being able to actually craft that message and then craft the overall coaching program and business and turn it into a movement, and then to see someone else then replicate that exact same thing like that is something that really kind of sets you on fire. It's like, we've both been PTs and we go to the fat loss side of things, or, from a physique perspective, the ones who really kind of make you go like, yeah, aren't the people who have got in a dress, or they've
It's
got
not,
into a
mate. Yeah.
suit. It's the people who you almost kind of see that like, you get it. So like for me,
Mm-hmm.
like I love kind of like out, like trail running. I love things like utilizing physical tools to really kind of enhance your mental performance. And when I had someone else who was invested in that same sort of journey, and I saw them sending me a photo of jumping in a lake, or going like, right, I've done a sauna all this week. It wasn't almost kind of like the fact that like, yeah, I'm really glad. It was almost like you get it, and there's just that almost like that feeling of fulfillment and that drive to go, I just want to do more of that, like more of that. And that's the message that I really kind of want to share. But it's easy to slip back into the box of, like, you talk about sales. Like, it's like, I fall back into the box of, like, a business mentorship will just tell me, get good at selling, have as many conversations as you possibly can, because the solution to your problem is always sales, like it is.
Yeah.
But you kind of, like, within that, why do you think that they believe, or yeah, why do you think that coaches believe that sales is their problem? If that's coming up, like, on a regular basis, why is that the problem?
I think they believe it, mate, because a number of factors, but they always think that they can do more from it. They know it. A lot of them know that it's a weakness of theirs. Another factor is that, quite simply, they're losing people at their back door. So they think that, okay, let's, put a plaster over a leaky bucket. So they consistently think that. The problem is that because their business isn't really built on the principles of recurring revenue, is that they just normalize it. So, like I did back in the day, where I was like, okay, this what happens with your income. You just go up and down all the time. Cool. So they normalize it to the point where it's like, well, every month I just look for sales anyway, because I'm always wanting to grow. And it's like, well, in the pursuit of growth, if you're losing clients and you're always looking for sales, surely we have to look at things differently, because surely that's not the forever way of looking at it. Now, bear in mind, Cal, like some of these coaches who feel this way, they're also at a price point they've been charging for 4 years. They're not exactly churning out client results every week. They don't have they don't have a success portfolio. So taking all those things into consideration, it's like I almost feel like going, right, well, do you think it's better if we try another way of doing things here? And I remember a coach came to us 3 months back, and he was in all these other business coaching programs. And don't get me wrong, I was kind of right. Okay, this coach has been in, some of the other guys that have been in the space the longest, and I'm like, right, okay, let's, and you automatically think you have to do what you think you'll want. And I said, no, let's do this. Let's build a USP. Let's sit on it. And he went, nobody's ever made me do this. I was like, yeah, I know, because like, and mate, you're talking about being unfulfilled. You're talking about not having a buzz about your business. Like, build something you're proud of, and see the DMs that you have to send at some point. See the content that you're struggling with. See the marketing. Wake up every day and talk about the thing you love, and you'll not have a problem with any of it. So I always say this, Cal, right? It's like, if someone was to get you on Sky News for your business, what would you talk about? And they're like, fat loss. And it's like, why would they not just get James Smith then? And it's like, I'd probably talk about High Rocks. It's like, why would they not just get the owner of High Rocks on? And to the point as well, mate, like what you mentioned about people getting on board with that. Excuse me. I met you in Florida, right? At Russell Brunson's Funnel Hacking Live. I bought his book from a funnel. 2 weeks later, I'm like, oh, what's this funnel hacking live thing? I'm in the funnel. I'm in the world. Next thing you know, I'm on a plane to Florida with my missus on business class. And then I'm at this event. And then the next thing you know, I'm buying a course. And I'm like, what just happened there? I got a free book. But the point is that, I want personal trainers to listen to this, because just to your point, Cal, I don't think coaches are quite aware yet of why it matters to create something unique. I think they just think sell, fat loss, that's it. That's what happens. So I guess we're just trying to stretch the vision that we've been through, because I certainly felt the same. But how can I buy a book that he actually gives it for free? You just pay for shipping. Next thing you know, me and the missus are on a flight to Florida to buy, and then I buy a 20K course. Like, wow, okay, that's what you call knowing your market, and that's what you call making a movement.
It technically was a marketing conference. Did it feel like a marketing conference in the slightest?
No, that's it. And I never actually.
They sell software, mate. Technically. Oh, we got to get.
They sell software with a mastermind.
It's a fucking software company. Doesn't that just kind of instill an aura of possibilities of going, like, that's what I want to create? That almost kind of like that feeling. Like, I don't know about you, but it was almost like I've been 2 years now. I've been for the past 2 years. And when you go there, there's just a feeling of like. And here's another question. Okay, how many times did you speak one-to-one with Russell Brunson before you lumped in 20 grand?
Never.
Me neither. So
I never had a DM outbound message sent to me.
Did you follow him on Instagram much? Like, I didn't consume his content through Instagram
No,
myself.
not at all. So I think the listening, Carl, is that's the point. Is like, and this is a big plan for us for 2025, mate. It's like I look at people that inspire me, and I'm I get I find impressive, like we said there, impressive and inspiring. And these guys and girls aren't particularly on Instagram sitting there putting stories up of their oats. They're not.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay, that's how they behave. Who do I need to step into? Who do I need to become? And this is the same for every level, by the way. It's just like, it could be you. You need to step into Instagram, maybe. Like, there's all sorts of levels to step into.
Yeah. But I look at like the buying journey that I went on as well. Like with that, I think I tell you one thing that's really, really clear with you, and I feel is really impressive, is your ability to almost kind of see data, and not necessarily just data in terms of what's happening in the business, but more importantly, like, so for example, when you kind of said that I'm in Sainsbury's and I'm watching, the girl who's scanning faster than everyone else. I'm seeing like actually what is actually happening through the data that is actually there, and you're looking into the story of it. And I find that really kind of like heavily impressive. And I look at almost like for me in terms of the buying journey I went on with Russell, that is data, and that tells a story, and that effectively kind of gives me my answer in terms of like that is the kind of buying journey that I would love to create. And I look at like a lot of business mentors, and it's interesting because I've been hounded by business mentors over the years as well. So like I've got one camping in my DM inbox at the moment, but I'm actually kind of just looking at his funnel. So he doesn't actually kind of know I'm just really kind of just having a look at that. But he's like absolutely hounding me. And it's interesting because I've been hounded by these guys. They're camping in my DMs. They're like relentlessly going, go, 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 go. And I admire their persistence and I admire their systems. But I'm also like, in terms of a sales process, I do not like the way in which that is kind of making me feel. So it's almost like immediately, we haven't even built up a relationship. Let's get on a call. Let's get on a call. Let's get on a call. I'm like, I don't know you. The one was referring to me as bro relentlessly. And I was like, dude, I don't even know you. You can't call me bro. But I think the point I'm kind of coming at is that like the way that individual was doing business is then I see it as the way that if I went into his business mentorship program, he is then going to teach me to go and do business. And I'm like, I don't want to do business like that. I look at the buying journey I went through Russell Brunson. Not once did I feel like I was sold to. I think the thing that he created, which was so amazing, was he caused me to want to work with him. And again, there's that curiosity. There's that, what's that on the other side? But I also kind of bought into like him, his personality, his way of doing things. And I just think that like, especially through Instagram at the moment, like I'm sure we both see lots of coaches' content, and it's the same message said the same way to kind of the same person. And they're all just kind of like, it seems that there's all just rabbits in a field, kind of in the same sort of way. And no one's wearing a waistcoat. No one's got the actual kind of like the clock out and saying that they're late. And the same with like the sales process. And I think the other thing is that like, if you look at, people who want to come and work with a personal trainer, you're not going to be the first personal trainer that they've probably worked with.
I know.
And if it's just the same service with the same marketing message, like that eventually kind of gets to a point where it's just like they're going to leave you significantly quicker because it's like you're just another one of them. You're just another one of them. I kind of come to just one other thing. You kind of mentioned like around MRR. So if we kind of go into MRR, like around kind of the leaky bucket side of things, why? What do you think is the predominant? I know it's a very, very vague and easy hard question to almost kind of get clear on. But what are the predominant things that someone may be potentially neglecting that is causing their overall recurring like revenue to not really kind of be there?
Yeah, mate, there's so much I could talk about on this. I think it's if I was to really pinpoint it to one thing, I honestly think, mate, like coaches couldn't care anymore. I think like any great coach listening to this, I mean, you're probably focused on self-development, so you're listening to this, which is great. So it puts you in a category away from people who just aren't prepared to ask any questions or get any help. So I think for me, it's like if you can't care anymore as a coach, right? And now if you think about that, like from a delivery standpoint, it's like you message them all the time, you look after them, you ask them their dog's name, their cat's name, you really care for these clients. And now in this modern day, with coaching, it's like mental health, it's nutrition, it's training, it's all these aspects that you're helping them with. So then there's so many coaches sitting there who can't care anymore. They care so much, but they still lose clients and they still struggle to sell. So it's like, okay, so I care enough. So what's next then? And it's like, well, how are you coaching people? Like, how are you communicating with people? Like, what is the conversations you're having? How are you being? Are you being a coach? Are you being a mentor? Are you being an educator? Like, are you wearing the different hats between it? So there's definitely an element of that as being a good coach and communicator. I think you don't have to be, like, yeah, you don't have to hit out all the fancy words and all the rest of it. You just have to be a good communicator that knows how to push someone in the back, but also put your arm around their shoulder. So again, these are high level, topics that I'm mentioning here that require obviously in depth chatting about it. So there's that. But then I also feel that there's so many coaches that just do not step into business owner mode.
Mm.
It's like I hear a lot of people say that, oh, you're a coach first and a business owner second, and I don't think that could be any further from the truth. I
Mm.
think if you didn't have a business, you'd call yourself a coach, but
You have no
you're
one to coach.
unemployed. Yeah, you're unemployed. You have no one to coach. So I think that this might be okay coming from a business coach because it might be making you think that I'm telling you to be more of a business owner. But when I look at like three big goals that coaches have, which is buy a house, buy a bigger house for kids, start a family, travel abroad, see the world, whatever. It all requires a solid business. So then you have to learn business skills, the business soft skills that you have to learn. Uh, People think because I'm into MRR, I'm anti sales or I'm anti cash collected and stuff like that. It's not the truth. So to summarize, I think it's like you have to be a good coach that communicates well. You have to understand that you're a natural business owner. Like you're a business owner who sells fitness. You're not a coach who's like owns a business. You're a
Mm.
business owner first. Because see if you focus on that, then you're going to impact more lives. Everybody says that, Cal. They're like, I want to impact loads of lives. It's like, well, you can't impact them if you don't have a business. Your
And
business
if
is the
no one
gateway
knows
to
you
that.
exist.
If no one knows you exist, you're not impacting people. And I actually saw a quote, and people might disagree with this, and I'm not sure where I stand with it at times, but I seen a quote. It was like, your marketing will impact more lives than your coaching ever will. And if you think of like effectively marketing, I've got, I don't know, something like 5,000 people's downloaded my audiobook. It's going to take a long time for me to coach 5,000 clients. Now, maybe they don't all read it, but maybe, 1,000 do. Again, that's a lot. So I think there's that, mate. I think it's people need to step into those shoes as a business owner, take 100% ownership. The coaches that we give awards to, that we see performing the best, mate, is they take 100% ownership of their business, of the coaching client relationship, and they step into those shoes. And because of that, the confidence builds. They lead with conviction. They create a solution based environment for themselves to work out of instead of reactive, instead of blame, instead of, oh, what if. They just lead from the front regardless of the situation. And that's the coach we love working with.
I remember listening to a podcast that Russell did, and it's interesting because he basically said that he sat in a room once and he saw all of these entrepreneurs, and he could literally tell who would be the ones that would be successful and not. And he basically said that the people who are going to be successful are the people who fall in love with the marketing and actually fall in love with the process of the marketing of the product as opposed to just the product. Now, that might sound pretty weird coming from me in terms of I'm someone who's hammering in on you've got to deliver a high quality service. You've got to deliver a service your client couldn't get from anyone else. But business is so much easier. It is easier to market. It is easier to sell when you've got good fucking results. Like, because otherwise, if I'm trying to relentlessly sell, if I'm on a sales call with someone and I know I'm on a sales call because I need to sign someone up because I've just had three clients leave me, sales is just the transference of certainty. So, yeah, I
Mhm.
absolutely have to be good at selling. But if the certainty in my mind, if I can get you the result, is actually, I'm actually only signing you up because I just had 3 people leave and I need to
Yeah.
get the mortgage sorted. You can be the best salesperson in the world, but eventually you're not going to have conviction. You're not going to want to actually go and do the marketing side of things. So, from my perspective, I see it as you have to over deliver on the promise. Like, over deliver on the promise. Not only will that bring in more referrals, but then also your own certainty and conviction and desire to go and put it out there, like, it goes through the roof. But then, secondly, the on the flip side, if you don't know how to market and you don't know how to sell, that then becomes really hard. So you have to have that kind of balance there between the two. But I think I kind of come back to this point on what something that is really, really clear with you from the conversations I've had with you anyway over the years, that you are fascinated and obsessed and curious of marketing and understanding marketing in terms of understanding people, what people actually want, what their challenges are, how to communicate with that individual. And I think one question I kind of got for you, because I think what's really, really clear as well is, and you kind of spoke about your client, who has the movement of the CBA. Like, it's very clear that that individual has the right customer from the start. Like, she's very, very
Big time.
clear and intent on who they're bringing in. And I remember Dan Kennedy talking about this immensely, where he talks about, if your goal should be to get a customer for life, and the way you do that is by getting the match right from the start. It starts with your messaging. And it's like, so for example, I guarantee what will happen over the next 3 weeks. You have loads of coaches on Instagram and they'll go, right, okay, guys, you can still enjoy the Christmas period, get into shape while drinking. You can still, like, here's all of the low calorie drinks that you can have, etc. Like, I don't think people understand how their marketing actually weaves into their coaching, because I know for myself, I kind of went through that sort of period of going like, hey, you can get into shape while just like drinking as many pints as you want. Like, because I thought that's what would make me attractive. And it did make me attractive to someone who wanted to get into shape while nailing pints on a regular basis. So the problem was that when they weren't losing weight and they weren't getting into shape, what is the one thing I can't tell them not to do? Like, I can't tell them not to nail pints, because they're like, well, that's the reason why I kind of signed up with you from the first place. So I think the point I'm kind of coming at here is, I think it's really clear that you are relentlessly refining who it is you really want to work with, and relentlessly refining and chipping away and chipping away and chipping away at that. Like what we've kind of spoken about in terms of that uniqueness, and being able to kind of build a movement and having, almost like a collection of your ideal customers, comes down to that sort of process. So, but that can also be scary and it can also be challenging, and something that someone may not have ever actually kind of thought is possible, to really actually consider, who do I really want to work with? So how have you done that? Like, because obviously you've done that multiple times and kind of evolved that avatar, but how do you kind of go about going like, right, this is who I really want to work with, and then kind of molding everything around that individual?
Mate, it's a great question. I think before I go into like how, I think it more becomes like why, because there's so many coaches right now who are so scared to say something wrong. They're so scared to put their opinion across. And one of the first trainings that we start with the coaches, it's called the Inspirational Leader Story Bank, where we get them to document their full life journey. And, my story about Sainsbury's, for example, is one that I've shared to relate to my market as well and get them to know me. But I think the first thing you have to think about is that, right, what opinions and thoughts and feelings and stuff that piss me off, what are they? Right? Because the best way to get the right person in front of you is to get the wrong people away from you. So I asked a client, I was struggling with marketing about 4 or 5 months ago, and I was like, right, I need a shake up here. And I was, but selfishly, had my clients on a big call, and I was like, right, before we end this call, I need to know what made you sign up. And what you do is you get the usual answers, Cal. You get the results, and I go, no. What individual piece of content or thing that I said made you book that call? What? And I waited. And the number one answer that won it out of all those clients, triggering content. And I went, right, okay. So actually, when I trigger people, because the world's getting soft, as you know, mate. So my triggering is a bit more, I've always held back now because I'm a bit, I don't want people. But actually, I just asked my clients and they all signed up because I triggered them. Now, One of my best clients, mate, I've had him for the longest time. Literally the week after I started Upgraded Coach, he unfollowed me, hated me. And he's now got the highest, I'm sure he won't mind me saying, the highest lifetime value of any client I've ever had. So he realised, actually, I'm being a little bitch here. Like, he's true, he's right what he's saying. He's just spoke right to me. He gets it. And so I think the first thing you have to do is speak your mind. You don't have to be controversial for the sake of it. You know, if you're an introvert, then but just get your point across. Put out there what you want in the world, what you feel's right. So I've had a lot of people like through the grapevine, MRI, oh, you should charge up front. And mate, that's the best part of it. This is like where the MRR's gathered traction, because it's like, if you think MRR's a price point, then I'm onto a winner here. Do you know what I mean? So that was so first of all, find out who are not your people. And the only way to attract the right people is have an opinion, man. Please, I know you might not be confident or whatever. Speak your mind. And it doesn't have to be, I don't like high rocks. It can be you and your stories, discussing your likes and dislikes of food and, you know, what you and your partner like to do at the weekend. You will get engagement from that. People will buy into your lifestyle and stuff like that. So you'll start to draw the right people. You'll disqualify those who don't fit in your world. And then from there, look at your best clients, look at the traits of them, look at the parts of the journey that were turning points for them. Did you did you did you actually just straight up tell them, look, this isn't good enough? And because of that, it created a new behavior change, which then created your dream client. Another thing I will say is that I think a lot of coaches do wrong is they, when they find out about this dream client thing, is they go and try and find the dream client in the after state. So, for example, if Hugh were my client and we'd spent 12 months working together, we've been through a lot of ups and downs, and now you're like, Cal's amazing. He checks in every week. He updates his nutrition. He's amazing in the community. He's done all these transformations and awards and stuff. People go and try and look for like you, Cal, and it's like, no, no, no. You created that. You've both created that as the journey. So don't go out there. Like, I did the same mistake, guys. Listening, I was like, right, okay, I want 7K coaches because they've got money. And I'm away out there marketing to 7K coaches using words like scale. Then they come in and they're like uncoachable. They've learned a lot of bad habits. They're from other mentorships. And I was like, whoa, I don't want these guys. So I think it's coming down to disqualify people to qualify people. It's you need to find out who you are first. You need to put your voice out there and you need to get people to come to you. And then I think it's just looking for clues in the client journey, though, those who are successful, and go, okay, that's what happened here. We set really high standards from the off. Those who stuck to the standards they changed their behaviors, they bought into the process, they bought into the brand and the movement, then they became dream clients. So listen, mate, I'm still figuring it out. You know, sometimes I look at my clients and I go, how do I find more of them? And I go, whoa, what a mixed bag of people. But then if you really look in, if you've done a psychology test on them all, they are just incredibly coachable, generous people who want to be part of something.
It's almost like the answers that you've kind of come to have come through looking back and seeing what has happened. I come back to that kind of data collection. And, you know, before, you know, we kind of started recording, we were talking about reflection. How do you go about, because you are hyper aware, like you seem very, very hyper aware of what is happening and what has happened. So even to the extent of going super, super deep in identifying what is that one piece of content? Like, what was that one piece of content that actually caused you to sign up? And again, you're looking at the data and the story that it tells. And I remember, you know, we were both in Russell's course. I remember my coach was always saying, he was like, you've got to collect the data because the data tells the story as to what is actually going on. So how do you personally, as as an entrepreneur, how do you go about reflecting? And then I know this could be quite an in-depth and challenging question in that sense, but how do you go about reflecting on that and then connecting the dots to then determine what your next actions need to be?
Yeah, I think it's important for people listening to understand that, you know, I might be thinking of a perception of me where I have a team and I have all these systems in place and I'm able to get all this information, but it's not true. Like, I'm actually, one of my biggest weaknesses is actually metrics and all that jazz. I'm a kick the door down guy and try and market. I love marketing, so I'm always putting a lot of time and effort into that. So for me, it's more, right, okay, how do we then use this information to to put it forward in a way that is different. So I'm very motivated, Cal, by like creating things that are different, and
Mm.
it's not just for different sake. So it's like, because then it would just be useless. It would maybe be too far left wing. But I've been trying to understand this myself, and it's not put myself in any of these light. But what you've mentioned earlier is like, I get fascinated by somebody like Elon Musk, who like, and there's a girl, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, who's very good at this, and it's like first principles critical thinking. So it's like when I when I was discovering MRR and stuff like that, and when I look at a client's business audit, or I look at marketing, or I look at a course that we've bought, I go right very first principles with it, and I go, wait, what is the point of this? What's the actual thing? And I think it's just a few more years of experience now. So if I see a thing, I'm very good at looking at it and going, right, but what actually is that? And I guess my bullshit filters just got better over the years, but I look at an idea, I look at the thing, and I go, right, from first principles, what actually is this? So now, right, if I was going to work with a business coach and I've just signed up with someone one to one there, like, I'm not going to go to him and go, okay, what's the offer? I'll go, I only need one thing from you, mate. This is what I need from you. And I've picked you because I know you're good at that one thing. So I think it's just dialing it back to really simple first principles. Now, I think it probably takes a few years of experience with this, because I certainly never, like, I feel like I've always done it, but I've never really knew what I was doing. So again, mate, I come back to the point when someone used to have the busiest classes, right, in my gym, and I went, wow, why are they so busy? And he was leaving, and I asked him for his tapes of what he'd played, so he gave me them, and I went in, played his tapes, and it was good. But I was like, what? Like, they're not as busy as him. And then I was like, I was asking the members and stuff. I was like, what made it? Why was there so many people at this? It's like, oh, he came around and spoke to us during it and made sure we're doing a proper form. And I went, is that it? It's like, yeah, like PTs don't do that, mate. They stand there at the top of the class, looking pretty, shouting orders. And I went, right, okay. So I just started weaving in and out of people squatting and stuff. And then it was like, oh, he's, and they felt seen, mate. The number one thing of any course, any member, they felt seen. And I went, wow. And then they went, that guy saw me. He told me to stop, sinking my knees in on the squat. And he actually gave me into trouble because I never went low enough. He told their partner at dinner that night. It's like, right, okay. And so then it happens like that. So I think it's a difficult one to answer, mate. But I think really looking at things from a first principle, like, what actually is this here? What is he selling? And if you're going to buy something, just ask the question. Just go what is that, mate? It's terrible because over the years I've built this up, and I put a film on, mate, and I just know what's going to happen. I'm like, right, what films? What they try to tell us here? And I go, right, I think I know what's going to happen here. Like literally the first few scenes, mate. And it's because I'm just curious, and that curiosity has led to just critical thinking, I think.
Mate, that is so powerful. That is so powerful. So thank you so much.
My pleasure, mate.
Yeah.
Love those questions, man.
Thank you, mate. Just yeah, I'm very similar to you, and I think that really kind of like wrap up the whole point is that curiosity, and also I think that like what's really cool is almost kind of like you're constantly searching for the answers from kind of from other people, and the fact that you're still consistently hunting down for that, yeah, and just refining and refining and refining. Like it's very inspiring. So thank you so much, mate. So for the next time, Mr. Bradley, thank you
Yes.
very much, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone listening. Appreciate it, man.